Okay, welcome back. Let's take a look at the management of VM encryption. What would be the things involved in managing a VM encrypted in terms of permissions and access and so on? So first thing is we need to make note on who has permissions to manage encrypted VMs. We have this principle of least privilege when we talk about these types of high levels of trust and security. So in vSphere, we have defined roles that can be used with or without VM encryption involved. So in vSphere, the traditional user-named administrator has been granted everything, including the ability to encrypt and decrypt virtual machines. Whereas there's this other role called the no cryptography administrator or the no crypto admin, which can perform almost every administrative task except for anything having to do with VM encryption. So that basically means you have the general admins would be the no crypto admins, and then the very select few who would be granted that privilege of being able to encrypt and also decrypt the sensitive information inside those VMs. So a subset of your vSphere admins would be able to manage encryption, whereas the majority would be the no crypto admins. Now, what are those things that actually are prevented from the no crypto admin? Basically, what we have here are the basic privileges that the administrator gets, but the no crypto admin doesn't get, which you wouldn't be too surprised to find what's in this list, right? For instance, encrypted VM is something that only the administrator can perform, as well as decrypt a VM. Managing the KMS connection. Yeah, okay, no big surprise here. Managing encryption policies, right? Those are all standard things. Nobody would be too surprised. Those are privileges that have been granted only to the administrator who can perform cryptographic tasks. But being able to add a disk to a VM. Now, being able to add a disk to an encrypted VM is what this implies, right? So, and no crypto admin can add a disk to a VM that is not encrypted. But if it's been encrypted, only the admin can add a disk to an encrypted VM. Same thing with clone, right? You can clone a VM. If you're a no crypto admin, you can clone a non-encrypted VM to another non-encrypted VM. But if there's any kind of cloning operations that involve encrypting or decrypting, then you have to have administrator privileges. So keep in mind, right? Which of the predefined vCenter roles allows a user to perform the cryptographic tasks, right? So who can do the cryptographic tasks? That would be the administrator or anybody else that you have assigned who has those actual privileges, right? But normally the only account that has those privileges or the only role that has those privileges is the administrator. All right, now the other responsibility here is pushing keys to hosts, right? Key pushers, right? Well, there's actually a distinction here before vSphere 7 and after vSphere 7, right? So before vSphere 7, when a cryptographic operation occurs on an ESXi host, these conditions apply. The host must enter crypto safe mode before we can start encrypting VMs. Remember, that basically turns on the core dump encryption process, right? With one host in a cluster, or when one host in a cluster opens or enters a crypto safe mode, right? So when one host in a cluster enters in crypto safe mode, all the other hosts in the cluster must also enter crypto safe mode. This was DRS prior to vSphere 7, right? And then vCenter will push the keys to all the hosts in the cluster. With vSphere 7, now that also includes HA. So if you have an HA cluster, then at least one encrypted VM exists on a host in the cluster, vCenter will then push the necessary VM keys to all the hosts in the cluster. If you don't have HA, or if you have a standalone host, well, then the keys will get pushed to the single host. Now, vSphere 7, this is a new feature, right? I know we just said earlier that we didn't support this, so now we do, right? In vSphere 7, we can actually now perform a cross vCenter migration and cloning of encrypted VMs, right? These are new, right? So in vSphere 7, you can now perform cryptographic operations across vCenters. That's pretty cool, right? If you're going to clone, if you clone an unencrypted VM, you can encrypt the destination VM. When cloning an unencrypted VM, or while cloning an encrypted VM, you can decrypt on the destination. And when cloning an encrypted VM, you can recrypt the destination. Recrypt basically means we're redoing the key encrypting key. For migrations, you can migrate an encrypted VM across vCenter instances. You cannot decrypt the VM during the migration, though, and you cannot recrypt the VM during the migration. VMs can be powered on or off when cloning or migrating across vCenter instances, right? The important distinction here is you need to have a shared KMS cluster. This was not possible in vSphere 6, 5, or 6, 7. This is what's new in vSphere 7. The only way I'm ever able to move a VM from one vCenter to another is because both vCenter servers can have access to the same key. So you have to have a shared KMS cluster. So that's the prerequisite. So encrypted VMs with keys in their shared KMS cluster can be migrated or cloned between vCenter instances. Both source and destination must be running vSphere 7, of course. If you have encrypted VMs with keys in dedicated KMS clusters, then they cannot be moved or cloned, right? You cannot do that because there's no way to gather the key from the KMS that was dedicated to the vCenter on the left. You try to move the VM over to the vCenter on the right. That vCenter does not have access to the same KMS, doesn't have access to the same keys. So then that's not possible. So you can do cross vCenter migrations and cross vCenter cloning, provided you have this shared KMS. Right, so cross vCenter migrations, if the destination host is not in encryption mode, or if the destination host is not in encryption mode, verify that the default KMS cluster is configured on the destination vCenter. You can set the default KMS cluster or to a different KMS, but if it's to the same KMS cluster, then you have these operations that we're looking for, being able to migrate or clone from one vCenter to the next. And you have this ability now in vSphere 7 to recrypt or to do a shallow recrypt of VMs with a snapshot. We didn't have that capability in the past. Before vSphere 7, you could perform a shallow rekey while the VM was on or off, but now with vSphere 7, you can perform a shallow rekey of an encrypted VM while it actually has snapshots. You do have to make sure that the VM has only a single snapshot branch. Multiple branches of snapshots are not supported. And if the recryption operation fails before recrypting all snapshots in the chain, snapshots that are encrypted with the new key and other snapshots with the old key, that's not a good condition to be in. Basically, what you have to do is a shallow recrypt. By the way, these are not things that are done in the user interface. This is a Power CLI to do a shallow rekey. All right, so that was a look at some of the management. Stay tuned next for our next lesson, where we'll then start covering additional characteristics of VM encryption. So we'll see you in a little bit.